with primarily retroperitoneal. So when we're dealing with primarily, we're dealing with the structures like the kidney and the adrenal glands. So what we have is they're primarily retroperitoneal because they started as retroperitoneal and they never changed. They've always been retroperitoneal. And what we mean by retroperitoneal is these structures are trapped between the parietal peritoneum on one side, which would on this case be the ventral side, and the body wall on their dorsal side. So essentially, instead of being completely covered by a layer of peritoneum and then suspended by a mesentery, they are only covered by peritoneum on one side, and then the other side is attached to the body wall by adventitia. So that's prime retroperitoneal, right? Always been, always will be retroperitoneal. And we're dealing with kidney and adrenal glands, right? For renal capsule, you can't really see it. There's not a good representation of it, okay? They're kind of trying to show you the capsule right here, this kind of reddish layer, right? I think that's them trying to show you on this model the capsule, okay? Now, really, the capsule isn't red, okay? If you look at an actual kidney, the capsule is almost whitish, but it's usually more transparent than anything else. But I think they're just trying to show you this little area on the outside as being the capsule. Okay, so the capsule is a fibrous connective tissue covering for the kidney, and it covers the kidney, but it doesn't extend onto the adrenal. So the adrenal has its own separate covering, but it's not covered by the renal capsule. Perirenal fat, we can see perirenal fat around here. Okay, so we can see the adrenal gland here, and then we see all this yellowish material surrounding the kidney. And in this model, it's kind of, like dissected away or cut away so that you can see more of the structure of the kidney. But in real life, the perirenal fat should be kind of surrounding the whole kidney all around. And you get perirenal fat, it helps to anchor the kidney in place, right? Kind of keeps it in place. Also prevents, or let's say protects it from shock, and kind of insulates it also. But that's perirenal fat around here. The hilus of the kidney is this indentation. Okay, it's this indentation where the renal arteries come in, the renal vein exits, the ureter exits. We should also get innervation and lymphatics coming in and out of here. Okay, so the hilus is just this indentation, or if we look at this side, it's this indentation that's there to allow structures to go in and out of the kidney. Okay, the renal artery and vein, we just kind of pointed them out. We have right here, this represents the inferior vena cava. This represents the aorta. If you want, you can call it the abdominal aorta or the descending aorta. But if this is vena cava and if this is aorta, this is a renal vein, this blue one right here, and this is a renal artery, this red one right here. Okay, so renal vein, renal artery, and you'll notice that it's not abnormal. It's in fact pretty common to find the renal arteries and veins branching before they enter the hilus. And you'll see the same thing on this side, renal arteries and veins branching before they enter the hilus. Okay? The renal sinus is the space which is inside of the, let's say, the functional tissues of the kidney. So what we have is the functional tissues of the kidney, we're going to get back to this idea, are the cortex and the medulla. And what I usually refer to as accessory structures which are there to, help the cortex and medulla do their job, include things like renal artery, renal vein, innervation, lymphatics, as well as drainage system. Okay, so when you take all those accessory structures, if you were to simply yank all of them completely outside of the kidney, then it would leave a hollow space inside of the functional tissues of the kidney. Now, what I'm outlining here is actually the pelvis, the renal pelvis, but imagine if we pulled all of that stuff out, then there would just be a big space inside of this cap of, functional tissues. That space is the renal sinus. Now, sitting inside of the renal sinus are things like renal artery, renal vein, you have lymphatics, you have innervation, and you have the drainage system. Now, the drainage system includes what we're seeing right here, this big open space right here. This is the renal pelvis, and pelvis just means bowl, so that's fine.